Welcome back, everybody, to episode number 44 of the Dota Show. And in spite of the fact that I'm trying my best to sound excited and healthy and happy, well, I am excited, I am happy, but I'm not sure how healthy I am right now, to be perfectly honest with you guys. My stomach has really been bothering me today. And the worst part is, I'm pretty sure I know why, and I'm pretty sure it is completely avoidable. So, as you may know, if you've ever listened to my casts, especially when I'm casting longer events, I do enjoy a nice cup of joe. I enjoy my coffee. I normally drink it black, and I've never really had any problems with it until, I guess it's been the past week or so. But I don't think it's the coffee. I'm pretty sure. All right, here's what happened. You're gonna think I'm an idiot, which I might be an idiot, but I'll leave it for you guys to judge. Uh, so I made some coffee. God, it was like a week and a half ago. I drank a cup, and I don't know if you guys have ever done this where you're like, man, I'm so tired. I want a lot of coffee now. So you make a big pot of coffee. You have one cup, and then you realize you made it very strong. You know, you're playing Dota. You get hyped up anyway from the game itself, or you go to the gym, whatever the case might be. You don't really need all that coffee. So I left in the pot. I'm like, oh, I'll have some later. I'll save a little bit for tonight or this evening. And then I never touched it again. Couple days go by, and I'm one of these people. I might have like 3 or 4 cups of coffee one day, and then I just won't have any for a couple days just because I don't really need it. I'm feeling energetic. I'm feeling good, what have you. But I come back like 4 days later. This is about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and whoops, I forgot to empty out the coffee grinds. I forgot to empty out the pot. I forgot to wash them out. And if you've never, coffee is acidic, so in theory you would think it's not really the best breeding ground for bacteria or any sort of other growths, but it turns out coffee does get moldy. So I see the mold, right, in the coffee filter. I have one of these reusable coffee filters. So I see the mold in there. I see the mold in the coffee pot. And for some reason, I have the brilliant idea, oh, I'm just going to rinse it out with water. I really want coffee right now, even though I had Red Bull in the fridge, which I could have drank. So fast forward to like an hour and a half after I've drank that coffee, and coffee never bothers my stomach. It never gives me any sort of problems. I've been drinking it for God, I've been drinking it since high school. So at this point, like 8, 9 years probably on and off. And my stomach is acting up. Just like, I didn't feel like I was gonna throw up. It was just kind of like this discomfort. Sort of like if you're nervous, you're about to ask a girl on a date. Except I wasn't. I was about to play Dota, so really no reason to be nervous in particular. I ended up having to lie down for a while. So then I'm like, what did I eat today? Did I have bad chicken? No. And then I'm finally like, oh yeah, the coffee filter had a bunch of mold in it. And instead of properly cleaning it, I just rinsed it and scrubbed it for like 5 seconds. I didn't put it in the dishwasher. I didn't really clean it thoroughly. Maybe that was the problem. So I put the filter in the dishwasher. I put the pot in there. I cleaned them properly. But for some reason, I didn't actually put the whole coffee. I have one of the, sort of one of those standards coffee makers. I don't use a French press. I'm not fancy schmancy. But I didn't put the whole thing in, and I'm thinking right now there's some sort of contamination there. So I'm going to put the whole thing in the dishwasher. But it takes me feeling sick like 5 times in a row over the course of a week before I'll take action. So the first time I washed a little bit, but now I'm just going to wash everything. I'll probably just buy new coffee grinds, and hopefully that'll fix stuff. But yeah, I'm kind of a stubborn jackass and an idiot at times, if you will. So that happened today. Yeah, I was feeling sick again, and my stomach's still bothering me, but you guys always cheer me up. What else has been going on with me? Well, as you can see, I have not shaved. I saw somebody post in the YouTube comments for yesterday, shave your filthy neck beard, you disgusting hermit. Something to that effect. I know there was a neck beard in there somewhere. I just don't feel like shaving, man. And the beauty is, the people, I do work outside of Dota, but the people I do work for, I normally don't even go into an office or anything. And when I am meeting with the client, they're much more interested in me fixing their computer problems than they are in how nice and neat my neck is. So I just didn't feel like shaving. It's getting a little bit chillier out. That's why I've been wearing the zip up the past 2 days, just to keep me warm at night. Since Lady Gorman is out of town for the time being. No, I'm not married, but the cat is not enough. I gotta say, she doesn't like me anyway. She won't sleep in my bed. So I haven't been shaving. That may change in the future, but the more you flame me, the more you tell me that I'm a disgusting, filthy neckbeard or what have you, the less inclined I am to shave. I mean, really, just to piss you guys off. So if you want me to shave, the best thing you could do is just shut up, and then it'll get itchy. I won't feel like putting conditioner in it, and I'll just shave. And the last thing that happened today was I took a shower right before the show. And anyone who's ever done anything on the internet with a webcam has probably had, or live streaming anyways, probably had this gone through their head. I had this moment of panic when I came back in my room because I just started to get dressed right away, and I was like, wait a second, is my XSplit actually showing the waiting screen, or is it showing the webcam? Um, I think for the most part, I got lucky, but yeah, it was one of those moments where I was like, oh fuck, I think forgot to switch off the webcam. Fortunately, the chat is not going ballistic. There's no Reddit thread, so I'm not sure I would warrant a Reddit thread in any case. But yeah, so I guess the webcam wasn't on. But it's one of these things. I'm always paranoid about it, even if I'm not naked or there's not anything crazy going on in my room. I'm still like, man, did I leave that webcam on? I don't know. It's just one of those things, I guess. So anyway, that's all my icebreakers for you guys. Let's dive right into today's episode. Today, we are going to be looking at something a little bit different. So last week, we looked at initiation. We looked at carry tiny. And every time I've done this segment, it was called Get in That Ancillary before. Now it's called LD's Lab. I've always been using my own replays. But for this one, I haven't really had a pub game where I felt it showcased what I wanted to talk about. I think part of it is just I haven't played Juggernaut in a lineup where a lot of the things I want to highlight really happened for whatever reason. Partially due to allied hero picks, their skill choices, me being a selfish puppy at times, what have you. So I'm not using my own replay for today, and I will still reserve the right to use my own in the future. But for today, we are going to look at a pro replay. So if you're sick of watching me make new mistakes, if you're tired of flaming me, what have you, good news for you. We're not going to be looking at my replay. We're going to be looking at Hvost's Juggernaut. Hvost, of course, the one position player, the carry player for Navi. And we're going to be looking at this Juggernaut not just in any old match, but in the winter bracket finals for the International 2. This was a game, I think that for a lot of people, it was a little bit slow at times, but it was an exciting game for me, very strategically interesting. We're not going to analyze the whole game. I'm not going to be casting the game. We're just going to take an in-depth look at Hvost's Juggernaut play. So let's dive right into it without any further ado, and let's get this show on the road. So you can see, for once, I come prepared. My Dota is actually already ready to go. The volume is on. We're gonna skip through the draft. The only thing that I want to talk about is the very end of the draft.
Navi's turn to pick.
Now, the one thing I'll say about Juggernaut as a hero pick, the nice thing about running Juggernaut right now. Wow, that was a really. Oh, it's on 8 times speed. Okay. The interesting thing about picking Juggernaut is he's a very potent carry. In my opinion, I feel he's very undervalued in the competitive scene. We've seen Navi run him successfully. Recently, Wagamama's team ran him in Raid Call. I actually wanted to use the replay. Region played the Juggernaut for not infused anymore. I guess they're called Skanzeliet or Skanzeliet, something like that. It's some Swedish name. And I really wanted to use that replay, but for whatever reason, Raid Call's earlier matches before the ticket became available are not available in the Dota 2 client, so I couldn't use that game. But this is a hero that does see some play, but he's very much kind of an off-the-wall pick. He's not a top pick. The beauty of running a hero like that is you don't have to pick him early. This is not a Morphling or a Naga or a Lycanthrope, or if you want to secure the Juggernaut, you have to pick him up early. Like any other less popular hero, you can wait until the end of the draft. You can pick everything else you want so that, sure, you might be getting a lower-tier carry. Some people like to toss around these terms of sort of top-tier picks and lower-tier picks. But the nice thing about the Juggernaut pick, you can pick him with the last pick. So that's the first thing I want to point about the draft. The other thing I want to point out right off the bat is notice how quickly LGD picked up the Ancient Apparition. Now, Ancient Apparition already has some decent synergy with the rest of these heroes. They end up running an offensive tri-lane with the Leshrac, the Nagasarn, and the AA. But the big reason this hero gets picked up to me is to counter things like the quick mechanism coming out probably from the Enigma. Generally, that's what you expect to see him go for when you have so many heroes that are strong at pushing. And then, even more importantly, to counter the healing ward of Juggernaut. So, it's not the only reason this hero gets picked, but LGD, they already show with their hero picks, they do respect the healing ward. Ancient Apparition ult, for anyone who doesn't know, will disable all healing effects of any kind, whether they come from abilities, whether they come from items. You cannot regen HP. Lifesteal won't work either. While you're under the effect of the Ancient Apparition ultimate. So, by picking him up, they're showing, it's a subtle thing, but they're showing respect for Juggernaut's Healing Ward, which is one of his, I think, least appreciated abilities by far. It's not as flashy as Critical Strike, it's not as exciting as omnislash, it's not as annoying in the lane stage as Blade Fury, but it may very well be his most powerful ability. In fact, a lot of pros would argue that it is. There was an interview recently, oh god, who was it with? I think it was with Zoe from IG, where it was an interview done in Chinese, and it was translated to English. God, what was the phrase? He called it like his Imba healing stick or something. Like that was the translation. or ridiculously broken healing stick. Something along those lines to basically indicate just how powerful it was. Now you can tell from the way Navi is laning this that it looks like they are anticipating the offensive tri-lane. They're not throwing Juggernaut down there. They're putting him up in the enemy jungle. Lycan's heading to the enemy jungle. So they're pretty much prepared for this big ward investment off the bat from LGD to deny any pulling. Navi does a great job here predicting the lanes, and that's really going to help them out in the laning stage. Now, as we start to look at Juggernaut, let's talk a little bit about his abilities, but more importantly, I think let's just watch how Havos plays him. So what I'm actually going to do is just put it on player perspective for Havos. We'll pretty much keep it there the entire game. We may fast forward at points, we may move around a little bit, but for the most part, we'll just be seeing what Havos sees. So, he's up in the top lane. He has some support from Shadow Shaman. That's being played by Arsart. You can already see Arsart doing some pulling. Juggernaut, very powerful hero to have in certain 1v1 matchups. He's generally strong against almost all melee heroes. I would say one of the big exceptions would maybe be something like an Anti-Mage, just because Anti-Mage can blink away whenever Juggernaut uses Blade Fury. He can blink away and sometimes disjoint Juggernaut's omnislash or cause it to stop bouncing. And more importantly, it kind of makes the Blade Fury wasted. And on top of that, the monitor makes it very annoying. But aside from Anti-Mage, Juggernaut can handle pretty much any melee hero 1v1 fairly comfortably, especially in the first few levels early on. So he's a bit of an underrated hero in that respect. He has a laning presence. You compare Juggernaut, let's say we compare him to something, I don't know, take another carry that's not picked that often, say a Riki. Juggernaut offers you a lot more in the lane stage. He offers you a ton of burst damage. We often see we'll see teams going for first bloods with heroes like Venomancer. Shadow Shaman is a great example of a hero that you can get first blood with. Shackles into Blade Fury. He provides not only a lot of damage, it gives him a lot of survivability because he becomes magic immune while he's in Blade Fury, so not only is he doing the damage, but he won't be taking any magical damage. And in the laning phase, generally the only way you're going to die, or the main way you're going to be in trouble, is not from auto attacks, not from physical damage. Unless someone has a DD rune or something along those lines, it's generally going to come from magical damage. So Juggernaut, in this sense, he's very survivable. He deals a lot of damage of his own, and that's just through his first ability. He has a good attack animation. He has some decent base stats. He has good stat gain. His base armor is decent. His stats are good. So if you just look at him as far as the stats go and his early laning stage abilities, he's actually pretty strong. You could even see, like, let's say if the opposing team runs like a Beastmaster mid, you could put Juggernaut mid, and he would pretty much do fine up in that matchup. So it's a strong laning hero. That's one of his big advantages off the bat. And you can see Havos is being left entirely unmolested in the lane, left entirely to his own devices. Now, there's a couple reasons for this. One is they really want to have that powerful tri-lane bottom, although they finally realized it's just a Rubik down there. They've started to switch away. The other reason is that, on paper, Juggernaut really isn't that scary with farm. This is not a hero like Anti-Mage or a Morphling, who's going to get completely out of control right off the bat. This is a hero that you can give him a lot of items, and he has some late game potential coming through Blade Dance, coming through omnislash, but he's not overwhelmingly strong. So, it's a hero you're not really afraid to give farm away to him, as long as you're getting something good in return. And for the moment they are. They're getting a DK who's getting a lot of farm. They have an off-lane Naga Siren who's getting pretty much free farm. And the rest of the team is getting some levels of experience. And off the bat, you're going to see Navi has a significant lead because they're running Enigma who's denying creeps in the middle lane. They're running the Jungler in the Lycan. And then they're doing some pulling top lane for Arsart. So they are getting more experience in gold, but overall, LGD is getting a decent trade-off. They're not horribly losing the lane stage. So Havos so far is getting free farm. Now I want to look at his skill build, because to me this is the very interesting thing about Juggernaut. Traditionally, the build that you'll see recommended, if you just go and play Dota and look at Juggernaut hero guides right now, especially guides that aren't from the past year or so, guys that are a little bit older, it's almost always recommended skip the healing ward early and just get Blade Fury and stats. The idea behind this is, when you hit level 6, if you don't have any plus stat items, you won't really have enough mana to use your Blade Fury and your Omnislash. You need plus stats to do that. And so the mana regen has to come through somewhere, whether it's an item that gives you extra mana, or whether it's just something, whether it's just taking stats to increase your mana pool. But in this particular game, and really the way we're seeing Juggernaut played pretty much exclusively by all teams, you always max healing ward second. You don't actually get any points in stats. So if you're not going to get points in stats, you have to compensate for it somewhere else. And this item right here, the Soul Ring pickup on Juggernaut, I feel this is possibly one of the best heroes in the game to get a Soul Ring on. There's a couple of reasons for this. One is, like I mentioned, he needs the mana just to use his Blade Fury ultimate combo early on. So just from that perspective, it's a nice pickup on him. But the real beauty of getting this item is is that Juggernaut has a massively powerful AoE heal that comes in the form of Healing Ward. You can be down to like 50 health, pop your Soul Ring, get just enough mana for your Healing Ward, and if it's leveled up, it will heal you to full by the time that that Healing Ward expires. So this item, just a Soul Ring, pretty much means Juggernaut should never have to go back to base unless he's completely out of mana, the Soul Ring's on cooldown, and he doesn't have an AHP. Otherwise, he doesn't need to go back to base. So this item, for the cost of only about 800, or what is the exact cost of Soul Ring? I should probably look that up right now, so that I don't embarrass myself. I think it's 875, I want to say. 800. Okay, so for the cost of 800, which is barely more than a bottle, you permanently don't have to go back to base. Now, bottle's not a bad item, but yeah, you get your 3 charges, then you're out. With Juggernaut, because he has Healing Ward, this item is incredibly potent on him. And it's not just getting a Soul Ring on a hero that can gank. As we're going to see as this game progresses, Healing Ward really sustains the team. So you win a team fight, you pop a Healing Ward, you can go right into the Roche pit. You win a team fight, you drop the Healing Ward, you get 2 towers instead of 1. Your mechanism's on cooldown, no big deal. Just drop the Healing Ward, you're good to go. So it gives you another method to sustain pushes. It's a very underrated ability, and that's why we see Havost, and really all Juggernaut players as of late, they are maxing the Ward. Secondly, as soon as they max Blade Fury, Healing Ward is the next spell to get maxed out. So far in the laning stage, Havost has been left pretty much entirely alone. You'll notice that he's spamming Blade Fury in the creeps, and then and he's doing this even though it pushes the lane. And they're in a 2v1, they're in a lane that they're pretty much going to win. And you might be wondering, well, isn't this a mistake? We just saw an episode on Creep Equilibrium yesterday, and you said it's generally a bad idea, LD, to push the off lane, to push the suicide lane, because it makes you more susceptible to ganks. Generally it is, but in this game, they know that it's an Ancient Apparition and a DK dual laning mid, because Dandy rotated over, so they know that those 2 heroes are mid, they know that there's 2 heroes bottom to help to have the Leshrac protect the Naga, so they know they're in a 2v1. They've also had decent vision most of the game. And again, we don't really care about these kills happening in other lanes. We're just focused on the Juggernaut here. But by pushing the lane with Blade Fury, he's able to go over into this camp and get some additional farm. So Havost is maximizing his ability to farm. He's also pushing the lane under the enemy tower, which means it's harder for Beastmaster to last hit. The tower is taking some damage. And this might not seem like a big deal until you realize that in the later stages of this game, or even in the mid game, Navi has an incredibly potent pushing lineup. Not only that, the Healing Ward from Juggernaut, they have a lot of minions coming from the Demonic Conversions, from the Enigma, the Lycanthropes, Wolves as well. Not to mention good creep clearing ability from the Shadow Shamans, Ether Shock, as well as the Fade Bolt from the Rubik. On top of that, they have the Shadow Shaman wards. Now, when you have all these pushing abilities, the one thing you normally need is an item to help sustain the push. Something like a mechanism. But with Healing Ward, you really don't even need to wait for a mechanism. You don't have to wait to get that item. You can just start pressuring the lane very early. The other nice thing about pushing the lane is what we're seeing right now. They can ensure there's no pulling shenanigans going on. And if you look at LGD's lineup, they don't have a true jungling hero. There's no Enigma here. There's no Lycanthrope like what Navi has. There's no Chen. There's no Enchantress. There's no one who can just farm in the jungle safely. So if LGD wants to get levels, if they want to get extra farm, there's really on a few things they can do. One of them is to stack Ancients with Beastmaster, but they're not doing that because Shao 8 is here in the safe lane, so he's not stacking Ancients. The other big thing they can do is to get kills. So far, not really doing that. They've gotten 1 kill, but 9 minutes in, that's really not a big deal. It's just not too much success in that respect. The other thing they can do, which Navi is shutting down, is prevent them from pulling creeps. So this is a lineup that you know wants to be creep pulling, but by constantly spamming Blade Fury, pushing the lane, and pressuring the enemy jungle, they are limiting the amount of farm that LGD is able to do. Now, they're not shutting it down completely. Ancient Apparition was able to do a pull over to this camp and then a secondary pull here. The Chinese teams are really good at this. They're, I would say, better than any other teams in the world at just maximizing their farming efficiency. That's why they get away with running lineups that don't have junglers. And I say get away because generally you think you'd be at a disadvantage. And it's not that they get a lot of kills early like the Russian teams, or the CIS teams, or even the Southeast Asian teams. What they do is just they pull very effectively, and they're very careful with the positioning so they don't get caught out. So Navi knows this, and that's a big part of why we saw the pushing this lane earlier. It allowed Shadow Shaman to pull this camp. It also allowed them to farm safely. So enough about that point for now. Juggernaut's hit level 7. You'll notice Havost is occasionally checking other lanes, but pretty much he's just focused on sitting up top, applying pressure here, and getting a lot of levels. Now, Juggernaut is not the most level dependent hero in the game, but generally for him to really hit his prime, you want to get up to level 11. That's where you're going to get your level 2 ultimate. More importantly, you'll have your Blade Fury max, and you'll have your Healing Ward max. The crit is nice to level up, but it's generally not going to be as relevant. Juggernaut is not really picked for his damage potential, although he can have quite a bit with the right items. Other heroes require less items to do more damage, and their damage is more reliable. Why is Juggernaut's damage generally unreliable? Well, Blade Fury only works in melee range. It's magical damage, so items like BKB are going to help deal with it. Piper Mechanism will help negate it because it's damage over time. And then his ultimate is just the definition of unreliable. It bounces randomly from unit to unit. You can't count on it hitting anything. Notice how Havost has been playing this entire game. He's pressuring that lane. He's actually has not left top lane at all. But right now he TP's mid. Initially you might think this is to deal with the DK's pressure on the lane. But if you look more closely at what the state of the map is right now, it's a bit more rich or complex than that. Navi saw multiple heroes grouped up on the midi-map bottom. They saw DK popped his ultimate form, started pushing mid. They know that LGD wants to push bottom. They know that LGD wants to start knocking down towers, using the fact that they have a lot of AoE nuke damage, that they have a Shrek, that they can clear creep waves quickly, to just kill towers fast. But when you have a lineup that's a Lycanthrope, when you have a Shadow Shaman who's almost getting level 6, and you have all these other great pushing heroes, Navi can push faster, so it's a really smart response by them. Before the pressure even mounts on that bottom lane, they TP and Havost mid, they ward off the DK, and then they immediately make the best of it. They maximize their efficiency here by putting a lot of pressure on this middle lane. So, you'll notice that Havost is hitting level 8, level 3 Healing Ward is up, spots a couple heroes running in, and watch what he's going to do now. He jumps in with the ultimate to start the fight. Now, this is a very underrated aspect of Juggernaut, is he's actually a pretty damn strong initiating hero when you're not fighting near a creep wave. The reason for that is that when he jumps into his ult form, he's invulnerable. So he's not an easy hero to take down, because hey, you can't target him while he's in his ult form. After he comes out of his ult, he still has Blade Fury. He provides a lot of burst damage, but you'll also notice he forces the enemy team just to run away. And now, if LGD wants to turn and fight, they're dealing with a Beastmaster that's practically dead, so one of their heroes, off the bat, it's going to be a 5v4 if they try and fight this. Or pretty much a 5v4. Even if Xiao 8 lives, he's not staying to fight. He's forced back to base. So it's very much like a Morphling who goes for Ethereal Blade, except you don't need items to get it going. You don't need to pick up the Ethereal Blade. You don't need to get any items to enable you to have this burst damage in the early stages of the game. So Havost is actually going to pick up a kill here on Xiao 8. Naga's Ensnare, of course, does go through magic immunity, so it will stop him from moving. Doesn't cancel the spin, but it stops him from chasing. But once he gets that kill, they're going to easily be able to push down this middle lane. And the nice thing about the Juggernaut ultimate, it has a pretty long cooldown, but every time you get a kill, that delays the next time the enemy's probably going to fight for quite a bit. Notice the micro coming on from Havost right now, making sure to keep the Healing Ward back at all times. You can actually bind the Healing Ward to a control group if you'd like, and if you do it once, and I'll pause while I explain this real quickly. You can bind it to a control group once, and similar to the Panda Aspects or anything that gets resummoned, it will remain bound whenever you resummon the Healing Ward. So if it's easier for you, you can just assign it to whatever control group you would like, and then as soon as you plop down the Healing Ward, you can start moving it around. Now, a recent buff that was made fairly recently. And I don't know what he's doing here. Okay, he's coming back into the fight. No, he's running away. No, he's coming back in. You'll notice Havost didn't really accomplish too much in the fight there. And a big part of it was that his Blade Fury was the only ability he had at his disposal. Something that a lot of people don't think about is that omnislash is not only a burst damage spell, not only a way to kill heroes off, it's also a great gap closer. And what I mean by that is Juggernaut needs to be in melee range to do damage with his auto attacks, to do damage with his ult or with his Blade Fury. But up against the lineup that has an ensnare that goes through Blade Fury, as well as Roar, which goes through, two ways to hold him in place, even when he pops Blade Fury. Having Omnislash allows him to close the gap and be right on top of you. So in that earlier fight, when we saw Beastmaster go down, even if Beastmaster wanted to turn and Roar right here, he wouldn't have been able to do so without probably dying to the Blade Fury damage. So that's a really underrated aspect of Omnislash, and it's why you'll often see Juggernauts just being a lot more successful when they have Omnislash available, not just for the damage, but also for the fact that it puts you on top of your opponents right away. So far, what have we seen from Havost? Mostly just farming the top lane. He's actually the second highest farmer in the game, keeping pace with the Naga Siren. Now, he's not going to scale as well with items as her. He doesn't have illusions. He doesn't have that big F-off ultimate with a 60-second cooldown once he hits 60. Well, he has an F-off ultimate, but it's not a 60-second cooldown. It's not going to hit everyone on a screen wide. It doesn't have an ensnare that goes through BKB. What he has right now is really good lane control, the ability to push the lane pretty effectively. And I just want everyone to notice that Havost has not really contributed too much to this game. The only time he left his lane was to pressure the mid lane to get a tower, and then to drive LGD off of the tower to set up that push. He killed off the Beastmaster, and that was really what broke open the defense. Otherwise, if they're trying to push this tower into Beastmaster Roar, into Naga Ensnare, things could have gone very badly for them. Okay, so we're pretty much through the laning stage. Just a little bit of harassment from Havost. And he's actually got to be quite careful now. You'll notice he's dropping very low, forces a TP out. Nice job at the DK doing that. But the beauty with Juggernaut, you drop down to about 100 HP. Just use your Soul Ring, pop your Healing Ward, and you'll be up to full in no time at all. So it allows you to be more aggressive, but still be efficient with your time. Now he gets caught out here. Notice how Havost waits until the Ensnare goes out, the Ensnare being on cooldown, then he TPs out. If you're Blade Fury and you TP, generally nothing can stop you, but Ensnare can. So good job by him. Just a little thing you want to keep in mind, whenever you're using an ability like Blade Fury, or whenever you're using Blade Fury and trying to TP out, just make sure if they had something that goes through Magic Immunity, that they've already used it before you try to. Unless you're willing for them to kill you as long as they waste it. But in that case, Havost played it perfectly. He's able to TP out, and I don't know why I have Naga Siren selected now. That's not what I want. You'll notice he's going to try and defend top. He really wants to get off an omnislash, but I don't think he's going to be able to. Maybe he is. Oh, this could be bad. Yeah, nice job by Havost getting that kill. So even though he's up against a hero, and if Naga turns around to net there, what's going to happen is Havost is just going to use Omnislash on him, and then your carry is dying instead of your support. So they really didn't have any way to deal with that. Mirror Image could have been popped to try and prevent it. In fact, that's probably what Sylar should have done. But again, not really a big deal. The Ancient Apparition getting picked off. But I've talked a lot about just Juggernaut's laning strengths. I'm sure everyone's sort of wondering, well, why would Navi pick Juggernaut to deal up against this LGD lineup? Like I was pointing out earlier, they have Roar, they have Ensnare, they have two things that go through Magical Immunity. Well, we saw in the epic Navi vs IG game that one of the major reasons that Navi picked up Juggernaut, it wasn't just for the healing ward, it wasn't for his pushing ability or his lane control. They picked up the Juggernaut because he has two ways to really deal well with the Naga Siren ultimate. The first is Blade Fury. So when you're in Blade Fury, you won't be affected by Naga Siren's sleep. You can continue to do magical damage in an AoE that entire time. The other is Omnislash. It puts you into an invulnerable state where you can't be targeted, you can't be attacked, and you're still doing damage. So he's got two abilities that do a decent amount of damage that also make him essentially unaffected by Naga Siren's ultimate. Even though the net still goes through his Blade Fury, even though the net can really give him fits in the mid game. Just this pick is very powerful to help deal with Naga Siren, but it's really not just about the Naga Siren. I think some people have said that's the main reason they picked up was to deal with Naga Siren, and I think that's only a part of the puzzle. And we're going to see later on in the game that in this team composition, with the amount of pushing abilities that Navi has, when they win a fight, the healing ward allows them not just to win that fight, not just to get one tower, but allows them to get multiple towers and pretty much take over the game. So right now, all we're seeing is some farming. Havost has opted for Vanguard this game. Now, generally, Vanguard it's not really the most cost-effective item, especially getting at the 17-minute mark. The laning stage is over. He doesn't really need the HP regen. The one thing I will say that the Vanguard gives him is a great item to help mitigate the damage that's coming out from the Naga Siren illusions in this stage of the game. So the Naga Siren illusions, that damage block, does have a chance to proc against them. And when you have a lot of damage, a lot of small damage sources like those illusions, which right now don't do a whole lot, it makes him very tanky. It makes him here you really don't want to focus. And because he has Blade Fury, because he has his ultimate, Juggernaut has some pretty decent built-in damage. Now, his damage falls off dramatically in the mid to late game. But for the next 5 to 10 minutes, just having Omnislash, just having Blade Fury up, these squishy supports, the Leshrac, the Ancient Apparition, as we click through them, look at their HP pools, they're all quite low. And even a hero like the DK's pretty tanky, but a level 2 Juggernaut ult will easily chew through about half of that HP pool if all the slashes hit on him. And this is the tankiest hero on the team, so it's not really fair to compare the Juggernaut's damage to a hero like that. But Xiao 8 so far, just farming, putting pressure on the map. Generally, Havost, or Shao8, look at that good luck Shao8 part. So far, Havost, he's not really putting that much pressure on the enemy team. Probably not as much as they would like to see, but pushing against LGD is really dangerous, because you are up against the Sleep, you are up against the Roar. There's a lot of great anti-push spells, the Axes, the AA Ultimate. If you get clustered up around an enemy tower, and the Ancient Apparition ult hits you, the Healing Ward's not going to help you, the mech on the Enigma isn't going to help you. And now commences what is going to be, I believe, like a 3 or 4 minute standoff at the top lane. We're going to fast forward through most of it. Eventually you're going to see Puppey gets picked off on his Lycanthrope. And that pretty much puts an end to the push. And I gotta say, in these sort of prolonged, slow engagements, the Chinese teams really are the best at just catching heroes out. Puppey's going to just be scouting things out with his wolves, doing a masterful job of that. Eventually he will get caught though. You'll notice Havost really wants to get a pick off because he has these 2 ways to really limit the amount of damage he's taking, the omnislash and the blade fury. He can afford to be quite aggressive because he's basically got 2 semi get out of jail free cards. So that's why we see him in the front lines. It's the item selection and just the ability set that allow him to do this. Now the DK gets caught out, the Lightning gets caught out, he's gonna get roared, he'll go down. And now the push is over. So Navi immediately starts TPing out to other lanes. They know that they can't defend top anymore. They know they can't fight top. The best thing you do when you're man down is pressure the enemy team around the map. Try and limit the amount of damage or the amount of mileage they can get out of that fight. Whereas for LGD, you notice they're frantically trying to push in top lane. I believe they do end up getting this tower. They want to fight it, but they are far too late to do so. Great job scouting over the Hawk. You'll notice that Havost is going back for Battle Fury, and normally I would be the first to criticize this item selection. He gets the Vanguard, which he doesn't really need. He doesn't need the HP regen from the Vanguard. Just a Vitality booster, even a Sange, would give him a similar amount of survivability. But the damage block, again, is nice against the Naga Lucians. It has a good build up to it. Now he's going for an item that gives you some nice HP, gives you some nice mana regen, but you really don't need it when you have a Soul Rage. We can talk about that more later. Let's actually go back, because I didn't realize the fight was coming up quite there. And I want everyone to watch just the way that Havost starts this fight for his team. Notice his positioning. He's in the front lines of his team pretty much every fight this game, along with the Lycanthrope. Puppey's not in the front lines right now. He's not in the front lines in most of the engagements, but as the game gets later, it'll be the Lycanthrope and the Juggernaut pretty much always in the front lines. This is where having an item like Vanguard is a great choice. So notice Omnislash is used again. A lot of physical burst damage off the bat. Mechanism is popped. Someone negating it. Immediately the Blade Fury and the Black Hole is channeled. It is a beautiful Black Hole. Although it gets cancelled, just DDC just barely skirting that. Shao8 is doing what he can. Now notice, Havost has used his ultimate. He's used Blade Fury. He hasn't killed anyone yet. Nobody has gone down. The Black Hole's been wasted. He's dropped quite a few heroes low, but notice how he's occupying them. Right now, Shao8, DD, DDC, they're not fighting Havost. They're not killing Havost. All they're doing is trying to get away from the Blade Fury, trying to limit the amount of damage he's doing. Even though Havost isn't killing them, he's zoning them out from the fight. He's limiting their ability to get into the right spot. Now Denny steals AA ult and just disintegrates Shao8, which is a really nice play by him. And I don't want to be watching Denny. I do want to be watching Havost. There we go. Havost drops the Healing Ward in the middle of the fight, and DD will kill it off, but he pays for it with a crit from the Juggernaut. Very late ultimate by Sylar. To be honest, I'm not sure why he waited that long, but in the end he does. The Healing Ward gets dropped. Notice they get one tower. They use the wards. The Healing Ward's now on cooldown. It's not really being used to maximum effectiveness, but with 3 heroes dead, they are going to be able to push another tower. Vanguard is really nice to have here. It can help you tank the creep wave if you need to. It can help you tank the Naga Luge, it's not to lose too much HP. But for the moment, they're just going to work down the tower. Now they're going to back off. So back to his item selection. He's going for a Battle Fury this game, and normally, you know, I would be one of the first to criticize this item. Generally, when we see heroes like Anti-Mage go for Battle Fury and Vanguard, it doesn't really do that much for them, because for what those 2 items normally provide is a really good build-up. In the case of Battle Fury, some good mid-game farming potential. In the case of Vanguard, just lane sustainability and a little bit of tankiness. But you can get similar tankiness from a Sange. You can get similar survivability just from a Vitality booster. But this build is okay to me, because the damage blocks can be helpful against the Naga Illusions, as well as just the physical auto attacks from the Beastmaster and the DK. The damage block will be helpful in that regard. More importantly, though, Getting the Battle Fury allows Navi to do something that they normally wouldn't have the best. They have a decent lineup for pushing, but now what they get with the Battle Fury is an amazing split pushing lineup. So yes, Puppy's Lycan can push very hard. Enigma can push quite hard with the demonic conversions. They have a lot of AoE spells to mode on creep waves. Now they have a hero who's almost impossible to gank unless you want to use Roar or unless you have Naga and Snare available. Because if you try and gank Juggernaut, it's very likely you'll get caught out away from a creep wave. Omnislash might kill one or two of you, and if you don't have those abilities that go through Blade Fury, he can just Blade Fury and TP away. So in this case, going for Battle Fury and going for Vanguard on a hero that has so many escape mechanisms already, as well as survivability in general, it actually works out pretty well. It gives them something they could use, which is more split push, to synergize nicely with the Lycan. And it gives him some damage, and we're going to see that he actually, the damage from Battle Fury does make a difference later on this game. So, team fight breaks out. Notice Havost in this case is joining the fight a bit late. He's going to look to focus DD, and he should be able to kill him off here. Drops the Omnislash. Again, notice what happens. The Omnislash gets dropped on two heroes. Those two heroes are immediately running away from the fight. It's just a Juggernaut, guys. There's nobody else here except for Puppy. Puppy and Dendy, but it's a 3v5 right now. They already lost their Shadow Shaman. There's no wards being dropped here. You generally think, okay, LGD is just going to fight and kill these heroes. But because Juggernaut has that Omnislash and the Blade Fury, he can jump in, he can be aggressive, and he can still really be a nuisance the entire fight. He does get ensnared down. Notice the Healing Ward gets dropped. It's being microed this entire time. It does get killed off. Something you'll see a lot of newer players fail to do is they won't kill the Healing Ward right away, and it can absolutely ruin you in team fights if you fail to do so. LGD focused it almost immediately in this game. Still, they're not dealing with it quickly enough. It gave him a little bit of heal, helped him to survive. An amazing Black Hole from Light of Heaven. Shao-Wei still tanking this entire time. This fight, Puppy gets a triple kill with his Wolves, I believe. Amazing individual play from him, but we really don't care about that. The Healing Ward's back up again. And now Havost is able to continue just farming. Again, notice what happens in the fight. He drops very low. Normally you'd have to go back to base, but Havost doesn't have to waste any time. He just uses the Soul Rain, uses the natural regen from the Vanguard and the Battle Fury, which I believe at this point he has completed. And the Soul Rain just never goes back to base. So it's not quite as good as an anti-mage blinking from camp to camp, but it's one way to just be a little bit more efficient. So notice Havost drops the Healing Ward before he goes into the fight. The reason he's doing this, or one of the things you want to keep in mind with the Healing Ward, and I'll pause for a second here, is that when you're in Blade Fury, you cannot drop the Healing Ward. While you're Omnislash, you cannot drop it. So, if you think your team's going to need the Healing Ward before the fight breaks out, drop it first, then use the other abilities. Now, I believe it actually just got killed off here by Yao. Notice Yao has opted for a BKB rush. Roshan's pretty low here. Now, generally, BKB is a very powerful carry item. It's going to help you a lot against the Rubik, especially the Shadow Shaman. Enigma, his only way to really deal with you is the Black Hole. Lycan doesn't care too much. But against Juggernaut, BKB is actually not that powerful. And the reason for that is that Omnislash goes through magic immunity, doesn't really care about it. So he is trying to ult Yao. He gets roared. A great defensive force stat by Dendy to pull the Juggernaut out of the middle of that fight. The wards get dropped. And notice this whole team is just built around zone control. So Juggernaut's able to drive heroes out of the fight. Then you have other abilities that do it. As the Omnislash goes off, you have the wards, you have the Black Hole. And Navi just have so many abilities that allow them to control space in these team fights, and they're really using them well. And again, notice Shao-Wei has been focused time and again in a lot of these engagements. If they're not running, they're trying to kill him. But they can't kill him. It's not just him, it's the team fight abilities and items that the rest of the squad has, but it's also the fact that with the Healing Ward, with Blade Fury, and with Omnislash, you can do a lot of damage and be a lot harder to kill than even other hard carries, even carries that are normally very difficult to bring down. Like an Anti-Mage. Anti-Mage, yes, he's got Blink, but if you're locked down, you're not going to Blink. Juggernaut, when he's in Blade Fury, when he's using Omnislash, he just can't really be killed most of the time. So anyway, Roshan gets stolen by Sylar. Now this is where Navi turn on their killer instinct this game, and really just the game spirals out of control for LGD. Notice how top lane is already pushed to the base. They know the Nagasan is on cooldown, they see 3 heroes again, and they immediately head straight up towards the top lane. Healing Ward is available. Sylar is, I believe he does go down here, loses the Aegis. The Healing Ward gets dropped in the middle of everything, and notice how Navi, they're fighting under the enemy tower, they're tanking Pulse Nova, they're tanking the Creep Wave, they're tanking Sylar's Illusions, the Riptide as well, and they are never going to have to go back to base. Mechanism and Healing Ward, this lineup can push all day long. Sylar comes back to base. There's a TP in from the DK. I'm not sure if Yao actually has his BKB. He does, but he's going to be forced to run away. The net goes on to Puppey. The other nice thing about this game is they don't just have... If you're just a Juggernaut up against a Beastmaster and a Naga Siren, they can just net you. But because there are other heroes that are high priority targets, like the Enigma, who has a BKB, like the Lycanthrope, who runs with the speed of the wind, really, when he's not being held in place by those abilities, it's not an obvious choice to focus Savos. But if you don't focus him, he's going to be able to do decent damage to the tower. His healing ward's going to be keeping the team alive. Now, when you Blade Fury, it will remove the Ancient Apparition ultimate. So Havos is actually able to heal up through this whole fight. He's not sitting there with the A ult on him. Anyway, the ult's cooling down. Notice the aggression from Havos. His ult's on cooldown. All he's trying to do right now is soak up damage while Lycanthrope and the rest of the team stun, lock down, and pick off heroes one at a time. Pretty good time to have a crit, I gotta say. And a lot of disables for him. Now, another thing that should be mentioned is when Navi pick Juggernaut, they don't just pick him in any situation. They pick him in a lineup where there's a great supporting cast, because Juggernaut has some weaknesses. I talked about how he doesn't have the best late game damage potential. You also want to remember he doesn't have a blink ability. He doesn't have blink, he doesn't have waveform, he doesn't have a gap closer like a Rikimaru or Phantom Assassin who have spammable slows and blink strike abilities. He doesn't have a reliable spammable way to stay on top of heroes. So if you want to run him as your carry, you either have to build him so that he's very mobile, or you need a lot of lockdown. In this case, what Navi did is they just got a lot of supports that have a lot of disables to allow Havos to get the auto attacks off. And by the way, it also helps the Lycan too, who's probably doing more overmatch in this fight. But notice they've been fighting since the Roshan pit under the enemy tower. They still don't have to go back to base. The mechanism gets used again. The healing ward has kept them alive for so very long. And there's the tanky build that Havos has gone for. As well as having permanent mana from the Soul Ring, the tank ability from the Vanguard. It's just sustaining the team so beautifully. This push, if I actually go back on the clock, I want to say this fight began around the 29-minute mark. It's been about 3 minutes in-game, and still they don't have to back. They get the Rex. Finally, they just blast through the LGD defenses. They get what they came for, and now they're going to back off. But notice the synergy of this lineup. Juggernaut just fits in so well with what Navi wanted to do, which is win a fight and then get some big results out of it. Don't just win a fight and then get a tower. Win a fight, get multiple towers, get a Roshan, although they haven't done so yet. Or get a Rex, and sit there and push for 3-4 minutes long. If you didn't have the Ember healing stick, in the words of Zoe, they would not be able to do it. So he's got the Battle Fury now. He's going to be continuing to farm, but really I think Juggernaut's window to shine. Something else I should mention about the Battle Fury. It's a pretty nice item to have against Naga Siren illusions, because the illusions will die very quickly to cleave, as they do take additional damage compared to the hero. So until they get really tanky, Battle Fury will help you to clean those up a little bit quicker. So it has a couple of uses besides the one I mentioned earlier. That definitely is worth pointing out. Teamfight breaks out again. Notice how omnislash is not killing anyone, but it's softening everyone up. The cleanup work comes out from Puppey. It comes out from an amazing ward trap, from the Shadow Shaman here, from Arsar. And then, from this point on, Havos has done his work. He's done a bunch of damage, he's dropped the healing ward. And again, look at this Navi team. They tanked everything. They tanked the full duration of Yao's BKB. They tanked all the auto attacks, the Riptide spam, the illusions, the AA ultimate. Pretty much everything that LGD could possibly throw at them has been used. And they're all at full health. It's because of this healing ward. And the healing ward is not just being dropped haphazardly. It's being microed carefully by Havos. It's being... Generally, when they're using it most effectively, it's while the black hole is going. And then you can't really get to the healing ward to stop it, because if you do, you're walking right into the black hole. So it's not just the Juggernaut pick, but it's the way they're using it in combination with these other heroes that's making it so damn effective. Again, notice how Juggernaut is able to pick up these kills because the team has a lot of spammable single target stuns that let him chase, that let him get the right clicks in. And they win a fight. It's 5-3, and they're just not going to back. With all these pushing heroes, or as I said, they will back. But they really didn't have to. It was the safer play, but they were all full health. They were not in a position where they needed to back. Now we're going to notice Havos' next item is a pretty interesting choice, and I thought maybe at this point he'd go for something like a Manta style, something, even a Desolator or an Assault Caress, just something to help the team push more. But he actually goes for a Basher, and he's going to turn this into an Abyssal Blade. Now, Abyssal Blade is not a bad item on Juggernaut. He has built-in crits, so anytime you have a critical strike ability, getting lots of raw damage will synergize nicely with that because your crits will be making it hit that much harder. But the real reason he's going for Basher in this game is because they just want to have one extra way to deal with that DK's BKB. Because the Abyssal Blade stun goes through BKB, and also because if you're able to pick off anyone on LGD, there's no Crystal Maiden on this lineup. All these heroes are very important. They all have abilities and items that you don't want them to use. Obviously the Naga ultimate, really all of Naga's abilities are an absolute nuisance, but especially that ultimate. They don't want to have to deal with it. Beastmaster's Roar, the mechanism, even the Leshrac has a Force Staff. He does a lot of AoE damage. Same for the Ancient Apparition, Force Staff and the old, very aggravating to deal with. But most importantly, it's the Lycanthrope's BKB. So in this case, I feel the Abyssal Blade is actually a pretty decent choice because it gives you damage as well as the disable that goes through BKB. But I wouldn't have minded even seeing something else, like a Yule Scepter, a utility item, even a Necro 3 just to give them more pushing power. Really, at this point, he could have gone for whatever he wanted. And it's not just because they're far ahead, it's because Juggernaut doesn't have a standard build that he has to go for. There are certain items that are always going to be good on him. Damage items are nice on him. Any items that can... Soul Ring is always going to be effective. But he's a very versatile hero because he has so many built-in escape mechanisms and survivability skills. Because he has the utility from the Healing Ward. If you want to play more as a pusher, you can. If you want him to be more of your team's primary damage dealer, you can go that direction as well. If you want him to provide that disable, that's an option too. So really whatever Havos wanted to go for, I think would have added nicely to Navi's item progression. But this game, Havos opts to go for Abyssal Blade, and for the reasons mentioned, it's certainly a fine choice. Roshan's about to respawn. Havos is kind of roaming around the map. LGD pretty much can't leave their base right now. The top lane is more or less constantly pushing in. And it's that good old Mexican standoff that we often hear about. Now, something that I should mention that we don't really see this game, but that Havos, that I've seen a lot of pros do very effectively, is not just putting the Healing Ward down at the right time, but if you're over near a tree line, like let's say you're fighting up here and there's a little crevice in the trees, or even better yet, over here, you can actually block the Healing Ward in such a way that your hero's blocking the enemy access to it, and if they don't have vision of it, it pretty much guarantees that you get it off. Arsar accidentally pops his BKB there. No big deal. It just goes onto the Juggernaut. And there's a big reason for this. Lycanthrope is a little bit harder to kill at this point because he has the ult that lets him run. At least as hard to kill, if not harder. And the other issue is just that Juggernaut does more for the team right now, not just through the ultimate. And by the way, let's go back and watch that again, because I just want you guys to see the amount of softening up that the Juggernaut does before the fight even begins. I'm probably going to give everyone a seizure with this. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do, just watch these health bars up top. You can look at the actual hero health bars if you want, but you don't need to. Just watch the health bars and notice how quickly they're going to drop. And I don't want to be going to 2 times. Okay. So Shrek gets hit a couple of times. He's already down to half. Yes, Juggernaut is not the only one doing damage, but he did probably about 50 to 60% of that damage, at least, by himself, just with his ultimate. And the fight is almost over from the moment it starts for LGD because of that ultimate from Juggernaut. So, yes, they're ahead in items. They're ahead pretty massively in gold, massively in experience. But this game goes to show you that Juggernaut, he provides a lot of utility to the team. He can be a great initiator as well, even though he doesn't have a stun, because he gives you that instant pick-off ability, because he zones the enemy team out of the fight. And he scales reasonably well with items. Plus, he provides the pushing power from the Healing Ward. I gotta say, for Navi, they used the Juggernaut absolutely brilliantly this game, and I guess that is the end of the replay. So that's all I got for you guys today as far as this game goes, but I think the key points to walk away from here are proper micro of the Healing Ward and proper timing of when to place it can completely turn the tides of a fight. The Healing Ward allows you not only to win a fight, but then to turn it into big gains all around the map, multiple towers, taking down Roshan, big objectives, not just getting hero kills, but a lot more besides it. The ultimate can be used very much like Morphling's Ethereal Blade, or any form of burst damage here, just to instantly give your team a +1 advantage in fights. It also provides zone control, not just the ultimate, but also things like Blade Fury. The ult can be used as a gap closer. And really, the Healing Ward just synergizes very well with pushing lineups. And like I was sort of talking about earlier, we didn't see it too much this game because Havos had a very easy lane. But Juggernaut is a fantastic melee hero in the laning stage as far as heroes that scale reasonably well with items go. Not just because of the healing ward, but because he provides a lot of damage from Blade Fury, and also because he is very, very difficult to kill between all of his defensive capabilities, the magic community, the invulnerability from the ult, and the heal from the healing ward. So for all these reasons, I gotta say, Juggernaut, I would love to see more of him. Navi used him effectively. Sure, perhaps other carries could have worked in this case, but I really feel Juggernaut was perhaps the best hero to play in that particular game, and, well, Navi used it well. So, with all that being said, we do have a little bit of time here for questions. So, guys, I open the floor to you. If you have any questions about that game, any questions about the way Navi played Juggernaut, using Juggernaut in competitive play, how does this translate over to your pub games? All your questions, the floor is now open. When would I say Juggernaut is better than other carries? Asked Justin Incredible V. Well, I think it's kind of a situational thing. To me, Juggernaut is a hero where you sort of want the right team for him. He's not a hero like Morphlane or Lycanthrope or Lone Druid right now. Well, you could argue that Lycan needs the right team because Lycan doesn't do much in the laning phase. But let's say a Lone Druid or a Morphlane. These two heroes dominate in the laning phase. They're always going to provide a lot of damage later on. They scale well with items, but they don't need that many to be effective. Not as many as other carries do, like an Anti-Mage, or, I don't know, a Phantom Assassin, who does to be effective. So, because of that, Juggernaut is not the most versatile carry. He can do a lot of different things, but his laning stage just isn't strong enough as an individual hero to warrant him being a top pick or ban. At least not right now. But with that being said, if you have a lot of pushing heroes, if you're up against a team that has a lot of damage over time with heroes like Venomancer, a team that lacks burst damage, then Juggernaut's incredibly potent because the healing ward will help you sustain pushes. But if you're up against a team, let's say, has a lot of burst damage, that has tons of chain stuns, that has a harder carry, that has a lot of mobility skills, Juggernaut might not be the best choice. Now, why do I mention the mobility skills? Well, because Blade Fury isn't going to do a whole lot for you if they have Blinks, if they have Wind Run, if they have Waveform. And if you're not using, if you can try and clear off creep waves, that's nice, but if you didn't, it was pretty clear in this game, Blade Fury got Havos quite a few kills, and it also helped him to survive. So, I would say it is a situational pick. I think it's more about what your team has and what you're trying to accomplish than it is about the enemy team, though. Because, for the most part, Juggernaut is always going to be a useful hero. But if you're running a lineup, like, let's say a lineup that's built around a 4 Protect 1, a sort of a turling lineup, with heroes like Beastmaster and Prophet, heroes that just want to stall out the game and find pickoffs in the late game and just win off of a couple of big team fights, Juggernaut may not be the best carry for that, just because he's not going to scale as well with items. He's not as mobile as a hero like Anti-Mage or Morphling, so he can't push and flash farm quite as quickly. But if you want to apply early pressure in lanes, if you're running any sort of a push strat, if you need an initiator who can also function as a carry or semi-carry, then Juggernaut may be the hero for you. I'm drinking water out of my international water bottle. That's a good question from Kool-Aids. Kool-Aids asks, why use Power Tread over Phase Boots on Juggernaut? Well, the nice thing about Power Treads is this great synergy with Soul Ring. So what you can do is while you have Strength Treads up, you use your Soul Ring, then you switch to Intelligence Treads, then you drop the Healing Ward. And by doing all of this, it really reduces the amount of mana you have to spend on the Healing Ward as a percentage of your total mana pool. And it leaves you with more mana, so then you can do something like also use Blade Fury, and in fact come out with the same mana pool, just about the same mana you had before you used the Soul Ring. So it really maximizes the efficiency of the Soul Ring. And also the attack speed is going to be more useful for pushing than the Phase Boots. Well, Phase Boots are better for chasing, they're better for ganking, they're better for sort of fighting with Juggernaut, but they don't offer you as much for a pushing lineup, because attack speed, especially later on in the game, is going to help you push a lot harder, and certainly when you add in an item like Battle Fury, which already gives you a lot of damage, then an item like Phase Boots, which is generally picked up for the mobility it provides to you. So I think because Navi wanted to push a little bit more, and they didn't really need Juggernaut to chase, because they had so many stuns from the Shadow Shaman and the Enigma, and the Rubik, so many ways to lock enemy heroes down. Because of all these reasons, Power Treads just made more sense. And also the attack speed in the later stages of the game is going to make your ult hit even harder than Phase Boots will, because you'll get extra slashes in between, extra physical attacks in between each omnislash attack. What if Juggernaut doesn't get a Battle Fury? What other item can make him a pusher? This question comes from Baller778. And someone in the chat, Silidus1991, mentions Mjolnir. That item does help you push. I would honestly say if you want to pick Juggernaut and get something like a Necronomicon 3, I think it's a fantastic item on. The attack speed is great. It gives him more mana to work with. And it synergizes well with them. The healing ward is going to be very helpful for keeping your push going. The minions with the R's and just with the raw damage they do will help you push harder. It's not a great late game damage item, but especially if you have something like Lycan on your team already, and then you get a Necrobook, How is going to be making all those minions hit even harder. Just across the whole team. So I think it is a viable choice to go for something like a Necronomicon 3. Even something like Vlad's is not a bad way to go. And we've seen Havost has actually gone for Vlad's before. It's not really for the lifesteal, it's for the plus armor to the creeps. So that's just a couple of options. Vanguard is actually a good pushing item just because it lets Juggernaut be a beefy frontline tank. And he's beefy because of that magic immunity from Blade Fury and the invulnerability from the ult. Alright, I think that does it for question time. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. That does it for the Dota Show episode number 44. I was your host LD for this one, and if you enjoyed, as always, please follow me, tell your friends about the show. I'd love to see those viewer numbers continue to go up. But tomorrow, if all goes well, that'll be back on Lumi's channel for Throwback Thursdays. He'll be casting an old school epic Dota 1 replay. I think last week he did a Meepo game. So he's doing some fun stuff. So if you want to check that out, that'll be happening at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/luminousinverse. Lumi has been sick the past day or two. So please give him your best wishes to get well on Twitter, on Facebook. I guess I mentioned this because I suppose there's a chance maybe his episode will be canceled. But hopefully Lumi will be feeling better by then. And you guys won't miss Throwback Thursday. I'm sure even if he misses it, maybe he'll do something like just do it on Friday instead. But anyway, that wraps up for me, guys. So until next time, this is going to be LD signing off. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys all. I guess I'll see you guys all on Sunday for trivia. So have fun.